Anders Nilsson is the author of several graphic novels and books of comics, including Big Questions, Don't Go Where I Can't Follow, and The End. His work has appeared in Kramer's Ergot, New York Times, The New York Times, The Believer, The New Yorker, Jenkum, and elsewhere. It's also been translated around the world. He's currently serializing a major graphic novel called Tongues, which is the most gorgeous thing I've ever held in my hands, I think, probably. Please welcome my dear friend and the exceptionally talented Anders Nilsson.
Yeah, Anders. Be careful walking up there.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for having me. Maybe I'll set this down to be safe.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so usually when I do a reading, I have like pictures over here, and everybody's not looking at me, they're looking at the pictures. But I can work with this, I think. And I would also, in preface, just say, as I was writing this over the last week, I sort of thought, like, what are the chances if I write this thing, somebody else is going to write about the same thing? It's unlikely, very unlikely. Well, Warfel has trod some of the same ground as I have. But hopefully this will be interesting anyways. Thoughts on skateboarding as a social activity with reference to the life of the author. Whoops. Close examination will reveal to the discerning observer that skateboarding is a social activity. This may not be obvious because unlike some other closely related human endeavors like baseball or a Beyonce concert, it doesn't require a large group to perform. This wasn't an actual thought I had until I'd been doing it for a while. My introduction to skateboarding was the movie Back to the Future, which came out in 1985. Thanks, Warfel. In this movie, the social aspect of the activity isn't obvious either. Its protagonist doesn't appear to have any friends, skateboarder or otherwise. But if you pay close attention, you'll realize that the pastime is indeed depicted as part of an interaction between multiple individuals. Accidental time traveler Marty McFly is forced to invent skateboarding in 1955 in order to escape his Uncle Biff, who wishes to do him violence. There is a chase. And a chase scene, of course, is a social activity. A chase takes at least two people to enact in anything like a convincing manner. You can verify this yourself, just try it. A one-person chase scene is considerably lacking in human interest. I didn't fully assimilate the subtle sociological message about skateboarding from Back to the Future. I was only 11. But when I turned up at school that fall, nearly all the other young boys also had gotten skateboards. And they became a primary hub around which much of our social activity orbited for the next couple of years. Actual chase scenes with security guards, or even better, but more rarely cops, were still a couple of years in my future. But in preparation, we all started growing our bangs and drawing skateboard company logos on the covers of our notebooks in order to signal to ourselves and our older siblings that we were now identifying as part of a discrete social subset to which they were not invited. But this was junior high. The embrace of these signifiers bore only a tenuous relationship to how much time each of us spent actually trying to figure out the possibilities of the device we had just acquired. The degree of tolerance for bloodied elbows and jeans torn in the knee area varied widely, as did the amount of time our parents demanded that we go to swimming meets or run track or practice piano. I wasn't required to do any of these things, or at least I resisted the requirement successfully, and I didn't mind torn pants. And for some reason, I was keenly interested in figuring out the possibilities of the device, so I kept skating. I don't even really remember everyone else quitting, but in retrospect, a pattern emerges. People would come, we'd skate together for a while, then they would fall away. This is how it worked. for the first 15 or 20 years that I skated. Skateboarding is hard and demanding of your time, of your shoe budget, of the flesh on your shins, and quitting is easy. Sometimes it's not even a choice. After a few months or a year or 2 or 3, someone moves away, or they start spending more time with that person they made out with at the party the other night, or they have a kid or start a band, or maybe one night they do a manual across a median on Central Avenue and get hit by a car going too fast for a business district, and they have to stay in the hospital for a week and get a steel rod put in their leg. Relearning how to make that leg do a kickflip might just be out of reach. Life is complicated, skateboarding is complicated, and they aren't going to fit together for very long for that many people. And this isn't really a problem. Skating in groups, having a herd, a flock, a pod, a crew, has its decided advantages and distinct pleasures. Yelling, "yeah," at people when they land a trick they've been trying for an hour clearly releases a chemical in your brain. A good chemical that we like. But it turns out skateboarding is a social activity even when you do it alone. Whatever you're doing, whatever trick you're working, whatever shit you just ate, is something that further cements your weird membership in this club, or something. If I found a stainless steel sports car that could bring me back 30 years into my past, it wouldn't really make that much difference. In 1994, I'd already been skating for 9 years, and let's be honest, I probably already knew how to do more than half the tricks I do now, so I don't think I could even blow my 20-year-old self's mind with my advanced skills from the 21st century. He'd probably be bummed I hadn't ever learned how to flip into anything. And I don't really run for the security guards anymore. But maybe we could hang out and skate for a night or two in some vacant downtown area, and maybe we could talk about what kind of shoes we like best. And I could encourage him to hang on, that he'd eventually meet some guys in Chicago that he could skate with forever, that they'd get old too, almost but not quite as old as me, and they never quit.
One time, I wrote a book about skateboarding and marriage. How many people in here, show of hands, are married? Nice. End of bit. Our next reader, Matt Price.